It is Sunday, so on Sunday we'd like to welcome in our Sunday sit-down guest, and today it is Phillies catcher JT Realmuto. First of all, thanks for being here with us. I would say you're about to enjoy an off day, but I'm not sure if you enjoy off days. I know you want to be out there on the field, but you're not going to play today.
Yeah, especially after feeling good last night at the plate. Sometimes you don't want to take those days off, but we had this one planned, I think, 4 or 5 days ago, so going to enjoy it.
What are those conversations like with Rob? I mean, are you fighting to get into the lineup every day? I mean, I know you understand the need for days off, obviously, to let the body heal, but are you battling to try and get in there?
Most of the time, yeah. Thomas and I have got to know each other pretty well, though, so he usually gives me an idea of when my day is going to be off at least like 4 days in advance, because if he tries to drop it on me suddenly, like the night before, I'll usually be like, no, I'm good, like I want to play. But for some reason, it works better when he gives me like 3 or 4 days notice and it says, hey, this is going to be your off day. Then I usually accept it a little easier that way.
I mean, obviously, you do need time off, right, to let the body heal. Playing catcher in the big leagues, playing catcher at any level, really, but in the big leagues, it's such a demanding position physically, mentally. The time off, it's good for you physically, but what about mentally? Do you take a step back and kind of watch the game a different way?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's more important mentally than it is physically for catchers. And for me to get a day off, it's just, there's so much stress that goes along with catching, so much thought and like running through a lineup, doing your scouting report, trying to get Bobby Witt Jr. out 4 times in a game. Like, that stuff's stressful. So just being able to sit back and actually watch the game and enjoy it a little bit, I think the mental break is just as important as the physical.
Can you talk a little bit about what it is that you and Garrett and the pitching staff do on a daily basis to get ready for, a lineup like the Royals or any major league lineup? Because I don't know that folks at home really understand the amount of work that goes into getting prepared for the game.
Yeah, so I mean, before every game, there's usually at least an hour and a half of whoever's catching that day, either me or Stubbsy will do our prep. You're just diving into their lineup, basically, diving into each hitter. You watch video on them. You see their strengths, their weaknesses, what pitches they hit well, what pitches they don't hit well, what counts they're aggressive in, what counts they're not aggressive in, when they chase, when they don't chase. There's so many nuances to calling a game and having the right information. And then all that really does is prepare you to go out there and you feel equipped to call a game. But then once you get in the game, you have to be able to make adjustments and sometimes go against what the scouting report would say just to keep it fresh and not be able to be too, not have them be able to know what you're doing to them.
How much of it is knowing your pitcher and understanding whether they like to throw to their strengths, to the batter's weaknesses? I mean, there's a lot that plays in, right?
Absolutely, and it's always your pitcher's strengths first.
Yeah.
You can get lost in a scouting report and trying to attack their weaknesses, but if that's not what your guy on the mound does well, then you're just making things harder on yourself. So we always start with what our pitchers do well, and that's the foundation of how we pitch. And then we take what they do well, we take the hitter's weakness and use that inside of what they do well. So if somebody's not a good slider hitter, but one of our pitcher doesn't really command a slider and it's not a great pitch for him, we're not going to use the slider. We're going to go with his strengths before we go with the hitter's weakness.
And then what about you in terms of reading swings? Are you doing that with every hitter? Are you doing that with particular hitters? How does that work for you?
Yeah, every hitter for the most part. And you usually know what hitters, after playing them time and time, you start to learn their instincts and how they go about their bats. Like to say whether if they're late on a fastball, which guy's like, hey, if he's late on one fastball, he's not going to be late on the next one. Or there's some guys who they're late on the fastball because they're looking for a slider, because they're sitting soft and they're going to stay with that approach. So it's a nuance. Like you've got to constantly play that game of cat and mouse of trying to figure out, are they just late or are they sitting on a slider? And it's an intricate part of the game that not a lot of people get to experience.
Yeah, it's a thinking man's position for sure, but there's also such a high level of toughness that comes with the catching position. And I had this conversation with Stubbsy not too long ago, but let me ask you, just that intrinsic toughness. I mean, has that always been something that you've possessed? Because, again, mentally and physically, you need to be pretty darn tough back there to make it and to last.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been something that even since I was a kid, just kind of ingrained in me. I don't know if it was my older brother, my sisters always beating up on me when I was younger. I had 3 older siblings, and I took the brunt of all the beatings. So I don't know if that made me tougher or what, but it's just something I take pride in. I know it's a demanding position, and it's physically and mentally grueling, but I wouldn't have it want it any other way. Like I take a lot of pride in it, and when catching's going well and the team's winning, it's something to be proud of. So I enjoy that aspect of it.
It wasn't always catching for you, right? I mean, I'm right when I say in high school you were an infielder, you were a shortstop, I think. When did catching become your route? When did someone say, hey, maybe behind the plate is where to go?
So I was a shortstop all growing up, middle school, high school, played short. I happened to catch 2 games in high school just because our catcher was starting pitching that day, and we didn't have another catcher. So they just threw me behind the plate. And a Marlin scout, Stan Meek, happened to be at the game that day. And he talked to me immediately after. He goes, hey, I know you haven't done this much, but we really like your tools behind the plate. If we drafted you, would you be interested in catching? And I basically told him, hey, and I was like 18 years old, first time ever catching. It was my senior year of high school. And I was like, hey, if you think it'll get me to the big leagues, I'll do whatever you want. So they drafted me, and immediately, I never even took an infield glove to Miami. I pretty much knew right when I got drafted I was going to try catching first. And we always had in the back of our minds that, like, if catching didn't work out, I'd just go back to playing the infield. So, but it worked out.
Baseball was just one of the 3 sports that you played. You started in high school. For you, was baseball always the path? I mean, I know you had opportunities to play big-time college football as well, but did you think to yourself, baseball is really probably my best option?
I would say yes. I think, I loved football. High school football is probably the most fun I've ever had in sports, but I just knew from the time I was 5, 6 years old, like I had a bat and a ball in my hand. My dad played baseball in college, so like I just grew up on the ball field, and I always loved it. So I was pretty sure from a young age that baseball was the avenue that I wanted to go after, and I got a little better at football in high school than I was expecting to be. So like that kind of made things interesting. Where there was a short period of time, sophomore, junior year, where I was like, you know what, maybe I'll chase this football thing, but it was always baseball for me.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this particular team. You get a chance to catch a pitching staff that's had great success this year, but think about guys like Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, guys that have such great pedigree and have been so successful at the big league level. That's got to be a lot of fun for you and for Garrett to be able to manage a staff like this, right?
Absolutely, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, do we pitch with our guys' with our guys' strengths, or do we attack their weaknesses? Our starting pitchers, they all have so many strengths. Like they can all do so many things that it makes where we can really attack the hitters and like have them on the defense, because you've got Wheeler, Knowles, Ranger, Sanchi. They all throw fastballs, sliders, changeups, everything for strikes. Everything's quality pitches. They throw them for chase when they need to. They're just, from top to bottom, our rotation, they're fun to catch. They stay on the attack. They keep the hitters guessing. They're a lot of fun to work with.
In terms of the bullpen, I know you got guys that I think back 4 or 5 years ago, and the difference that this bullpen is now with the velocity that's in virtually every one of the arms that's out there. Does that add challenges to you in terms of a catcher when they're humping it up there at 100 miles an hour?
There's no doubt, yeah. I told everyone last year in spring training when we put our bullpen together and everybody was throwing 95 to 100. I was like, this is going to be a tough year for catching for the Phillies, because they're good. But the good thing is I know if they're hard to catch, they're really hard to hit. So that works well for our bullpen. They throw the ball great, like you mentioned. It's just power stuff from top to bottom out there. You see guys on a nightly basis that just come in and dominate. So they're a lot of fun to catch as well. A lot different to catch, like they're harder, a little tougher to maneuver because it's more power stuff and more just coming right at you. With most of the guys are 2-pitch guys, as opposed to our starters who are more pitching and moving the baseball around. But it's a really good combo for us. It works well.
Well, it's worked well all season long. This team got out to almost a historic start in terms of the record and the wins. Slumped a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks. But the expectations, I would imagine, to a man in there in that clubhouse, you wouldn't have it any other way, right? It's World Series or bust kind of mentality, certainly for the city of Philadelphia. But I think that's exactly what you guys are thinking, too. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's been our we haven't been scared to say that since spring training. I mean, we think this team was built to win, and it's built to win a World Series. So anything short of that, we wouldn't have reached our ultimate goal. Whether we win the division, win a postseason series, get to the World Series, none of that stuff is good enough for our team. We want to win the World Series, and that's our only goal.
How much can you draw from the last 2 years? Because 2022, right there, a couple games away from winning a World Series. Last year ended a little bit sooner than I think anyone really expected, but I would imagine you can learn an awful lot from that as well, right?
For sure. I think in 2022 we were the team that kind of nobody expected to be there, so we were just riding the high, riding the momentum. And then last year we get in there against the Diamondbacks and we were the favorite. Some people would say the heavy favorite, and we didn't win the series. So getting to feel that pain and hopefully learn and grow from that experience this year should help us to be able to play a little better in those situations where hopefully we're favorites in more of the series than not. And going through that last year, I think will help us learn from it.
We're here in Kansas City, and I know last night you were coming off the field after doing the TV and radio interviews, and just another huge throng of Phillies fans standing over the dugout. The city of Philadelphia is unique in a lot of ways, but in terms of their fan base, how much fun is it to see them everywhere you go and to know that they're living and dying with every pitch just like you guys are?
It's incredible, honestly. Just the support that we've had on the road the last couple of years has been unbelievable. This year has been the best I've ever seen. I mean, everywhere we go, it's like this, where there's Phillies fans packed throughout every single stadium. Ranger and I were walking in yesterday, and he goes, "Man, there's a lot of red in here." You see so much red within this blue stadium that it just makes it so much fun to play. And it obviously it's not a home game, but it makes you feel at home when you have this many Phillies fans everywhere you go.
All right. Before I let you go, I'd like to finish up with some quick hitters, some light questions to have some fun with. You're from Oklahoma, that we know. Major country music stars that come out of Oklahoma: Garth Brooks, Vince Gill, Blake Shelton, Toby Keith. 4 guys from Oklahoma. If you could only listen to one of them for the rest of your life, who are you picking?
I'm going Garth Brooks. Yeah, he's probably top 3 or 4 country artists for me. So, always been a huge fan. Met him a couple times. He's definitely the one I'm listening to.
He's a big baseball fan too.
He is. He loves baseball.
I know he does. He's got a pretty good swing. All right, father of 4. You're a father of 4. When you're home, you're in dad mode, and mom needs an hour or 2 to herself. What are you doing? Where are you taking the kids? What are you doing with the kids to keep them occupied?
I got pretty lucky. So my 2 oldest are girls, but they're obsessed with the things that I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
So if we're in Florida, they love to go fishing, so we'll all go fishing together. They're obsessed with golfing right now, so if I take them to the driving range, they'll just hit balls for hours. And I'm ready to go home, and they're like, "No, Dad, we want to keep going." So anytime we need to get out, it's worked out great to where I'll either take them fishing, golfing. Sometimes we'll go just grab some ice cream if it's a short trip and get them out that way. But yeah, mamas always need their breaks, so it's nice to have kids that like to do some outdoor stuff that I can have fun with.
No doubt about it. All right, finally, take a look at your pitching staff. Starters, bullpen, whoever you want. Which pitcher on the Phillies do you think would make the best catcher? Who has the mentality that they could be a catcher?
I'm going to say, I'm going to go Jose Ruiz.
Right.
I think, for one, he caught before. He used to be a catcher. I don't know if it was in the minor leagues or in the winter leagues, but he was telling us, no, it's minor leagues, because he told us a story one time on the bus. He goes, "Yeah, I caught for 3 seasons. I was a 300 hitter. 3 minor league seasons, I hit 300. 100, 100, 100. So I guess he wasn't too good of a hitter, but I think he probably caught pretty good. He's got a pretty good arm.
Well, he's found his calling now out there in the bullpen, but yeah, no doubt about it. JT, always good to talk to you. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, JT Realmuto, our guest. We'll take a quick break, but we got more to come, so stay with us on the Phillies Radio Network.